when we have intense attraction for one another, and these two started off with very intense attraction for each other, the stronger the attraction and the chemistry often is indicating that the more deeply our wounds have connected and will be coming out.
Oh,
right? Like when people say, like whenever I have them tell their stories and it was such a like intense experience, I'm like, uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Like it's just a matter of time that the craziness is going to come out, because that the more on the superficial level we feel desire and attraction for, the more our wounds have pulled each other together and are going to be coming out very soon. But when they come out, our wounds are not coming out to try to destroy each other or us. They're coming out because they're giving us an opportunity to heal that.
Welcome back. We are on today with my guest, Kathrine Bejanyan on I'm Too Old for This Shit podcast. I'm Angie S., the founder of angies.com, link in the show notes, where I coach and consult women on their health and skincare while keeping it fun, irreverent, and most of all, practical and realistic for their own lifestyles. So I started this podcast because I wanted to talk about well-being beyond food, skincare, and meditation. Even though those are still really important and definitely important to me, I want to have guests on to talk about well-being beyond those things, because things like sex, dating, and other areas of health, relationships, and feeling like a misfit are also part of well-being and a different way of empowering women, but also men. So today I have Kathrine on to talk about dating and relationships. She's a therapist who specializes in exactly that. She's very good at what she does, and she's also a good friend of mine. So now, we didn't know that when we recorded this, but actually the day of the release, today, the 18th of November, is her birthday. So happy birthday, Kathrine. So before we get started, I'd like to preface this interview with, please don't feel less for being single. Don't feel bad for having standards. It's okay to have made mistakes in the past, settled on the wrong thing, and it's okay not to settle. Yes, it is nice to have friends who want to match you with someone, but it's not okay for anyone looking down on you or feeling sorry for you for being single, no matter how old you are. And most importantly, don't feel sorry for yourself. And I'm only saying this because I used to think I was unlovable. And to be fair, some of my choices and reactions were questionable at times. But as long as you can call yourself out and do better next time, it's all good. You know, I know couples who are so happy together and they're such a great match, and I always feel inspired and hopeful when I'm around them, and that's great. And I also know others who just settle, for financial reasons or because they don't want to be alone. It's just so insulting to their partners. And in those moments, like I can go home and I'm really happy I can sleep in peace in my bed. So I want to quote Derek Jackson here with something I heard him say in a video this morning. Single women aren't thirsty. They have standards. I'm just going to let it sink in. I think it's great. I'm like, finally, hallelujah. Someone's actually, recognizing. And I'm, I know I said hallelujah. I'm not preaching. I'm not at all in that way, but I'm just, it's just for effect. And look, let's begin. Welcome, Kathrine.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you on today. How are you?
I am doing well. Looking forward to this chat with you.
Cool. So, look, I brought you on because I've known you for a few years now, and I always really love how honest and straightforward you are. And you've actually really helped me seeing the light on a lot of things when it comes to dating and relationships. So I am absolutely dying to share this with the listeners. So before we get started, can you please introduce yourself, what you do and where you live?
I'm Kathrine. I'm a sort of a dating and relationship therapist, and I have a private practice in London. I see individuals or couples in anything related to relationships, and primarily related to with the intention of building sort of long-term, successful, healthy, loving relationships.
Okay, perfect. And so can I just ask you, what got you so interested in this field? Like, why did you do what you do?
I wish I had like some amazing answer, because it seems like when people get into, the work that they do that they're really passionate about, they have some kind of like life transforming incident. And it's like, yeah, for me, like there is no incredible story behind it. It was just, I loved psychology. I always loved psychology, and I was always really good at it. But in high school, I thought I was looking to become like a physician, a doctor. And I was always involved in, taking classes, anything like that related to becoming a doctor. And when I went to university, I just noticed that any of my like pre-med classes, chemistry, biology and stuff, I would literally look for any excuse to not sit through the class. Like, oh, it's a sunny day. I lived in California. Every day was a sunny day. So it got ridiculous. And I noticed though, like I was taking psychology courses for fun. For the pure enjoyment of it. And it just like occurred to me one day when I had, it was chemistry class, and during the midterm, I hadn't been to class, I hadn't studied. And within 10 minutes, I just got up with an empty like test and handed it in and like walked out. And I was like, I hate this. And I love psychology. And it hadn't occurred to me that you should or could do something that you love. And I had so much invested in this like notion of like, I was going to become a doctor, that it was kind of like hazy when I decided to do psychology. It was just the matter of, I love this. I'm enjoying the classes. I'm sort of just going to switch over and see what happens. And then things sort of just unfolded from there. I just kept doing really well in the classes, and then ended up in a master's program and ended up doing, practicum at a domestic violence, sexual assault agency, where I saw a lot of relationships go horribly wrong. What not to do, essentially, to create a toxic environment. And from then on, I just got really interested, and I just realized I have a knack for relationships. Like it came easily to me to understand it. And so I progressed in this arena. I ended up in London doing a PhD looking at sort of romantic relationships cross-culturally. And I will mention, like, one of the reasons why I wanted to delve deeper into understanding relationships is when I was doing my practicum in the States and getting my master's in to become a clinician. I ended up in Hawaii, and I was working within the military sector. Wow. Seeing a lot of, it was seeing, and one of the reasons why that attracted me was because they within the military community, they exist in such a sort of surreal environment where, couples are constantly, every couple of years, they're moving around, and soldiers are, at the time, especially back, it was like 10 years ago or something, they were deployed often and gone for trainings. And so you have this very pressurized environment to sort of exist as a couple with everything else that's going on. And so that was really sort of interesting to me, to how do these couples do it? And one of the things that I encountered was, like, sometimes soldiers would be stationed across the world, and they would meet someone, they'd fall in love, and they'd eventually return to the States, and that relationship would over time start to unravel. And I was just thinking, what's going on? Like, maybe they never fell in love, and to begin with, it wasn't love, whatever it was. But I quickly realized that actually it wasn't that they didn't fall in love. It was that once they actually fell in love and got married or committed to one another, they had to now negotiate this coexisting space, that they both existed in this relationship. And when you come from a different cultural background or have been raised very differently, different family standards and such, trying to sort of understand one another and negotiate a mutual space becomes very hard. So each one was trying to act from their own space of expectations about romance and love and marriage and all of that. And it was just different sometimes, quite different. And the more different their core sort of understanding of what was supposed to happen in a relationship, the more conflict they had. And then over time, it wore down the love they had for one another. So that sort of led me to end up coming to London and doing like a social psychology PhD, but with a focus on looking at relationships cross-culturally and what love meant and romance meant and expectations around like marital partners and stuff across cultures. Because expectations, I'm sure we'll get to it, are so important in a long-term relationship.
Yeah. It's what you say. You didn't think you had like this amazing story. I think you pretty much just said an amazing story. I mean, from like, assault in couples to like the military. I mean, you've earned a few stripes. Yeah. So it's like, because you said a few things, like definitely like, because you said you're studying psychology just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that is key though. And I think that is, I mean, you definitely are a natural. I mean, I have never sort of thrown anything at you that you couldn't sort of to like understanding and to reason. And so, yeah, no, you're definitely a natural, and that's, it's because that's my 2 cents, but
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You follow what you enjoy, and that's super key. And that's for anything that we do. Yeah. I think it's very important. So, okay. So, I mean, there's loads of stuff that you said that's really interesting. You mentioned about so you said that, you worked with couples who, I guess, where there was like assault on each other.
Yeah. Yes, there was some level of violence, whether it was verbal or all the way to, sexual or physical. Yeah.
So you said you looked into why they go wrong. Why do they go wrong? Did you find out about this? Like why?
Yeah. So, there's multiple reasons, but I will say that who you are and how you think, how you believe, how you behave is what you bring into the relationship. So often we look at the relationship and we try to diagnose what's going on wrong in this relationship. And really we need to look at each individual and go, what are they bringing to create the space? So a way to think about relationships, it's like there's 2 circles. There's you and the other person, and then you intersect those circles. And in that intersection is where that relationship is created. So the relationship isn't something that's outside of you, separate from you. It's what each individual is bringing to that space, and then the intermixing of those 2 individuals creates the relationship. So something about sort of those very toxic, like the domestic violence type of relationship where there's quite a lot of toxicity and abuse. I will say in 99.9, if not 100% of the cases, you could easily trace that back to that person's childhood and see a very violent or chaotic or abusive household that they grew up in. So that stuff was internalized, and we tend to recreate a lot of the patterns that we experienced in our childhood. We tend to recreate that in our adult life. So something for your audience to keep in mind is if they feel like they're going into relationship after relationship after relationship, trying to do everything right, but somehow end up in toxic environments, in, with people that are emotionally unavailable or abusive or whatever, it could be something, again, in the unconscious that's driving them to recreate some of those old patterns. So this is another key point, is that people think that they have to be in a relationship to do relationship work. No. Like it starts with you as an individual.
Yeah.
And so the healthier, the more awareness you have with your own reactions, the more your triggers you understand and can embrace, the better you know how you're going to mix with another person.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think also when you don't work on yourself and you just sort of outpour whatever is being, you mentioned triggering you onto your partner or whoever you're dating, for example, that's why people would say, oh, she's crazy or he's crazy. It's because it is actually on the outside, it looks crazy because it's not reasonable. What your reaction has nothing to do with the person. And I love what you just said about, what you just said, because that's one of the reasons I came to you. I wasn't in abusive relationship at all, but I
I couldn't help myself but fall in love with people who are emotionally unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
That was just my thing. And I had enough of banging my head against the wall. And I came to you. And one of the things that you said that I never forgot, and it was an eye-opener. And I'd already done, I thought, a lot of work on myself. And you said this, is that in those scenarios, so if anyone, anyone else who's experienced this, when you fall for someone who's not, they're single, they may or may not have kids, but they're completely available. They seem into you, and they're not committed to anyone else. And so that feeling. So if anyone else who's been there, is basically that I was confusing. This is what you were saying to me, is that I was confusing anxiety, feeling anxious because I never knew where I was with them. I never felt good enough or anything like that. I never knew where I was with them. I was confusing anxiety with passion. I thought, this is exciting, and the sex is going to be amazing. The sex was never actually amazing. I was confusing. I did not know the difference, and it was familiar to me. And so that's the thing. When someone, I think, when someone is in a violent relationship, domestic violence, it's not because the person, you can't just say that person just go and leave, because to them, that's how love is supposed to look like. So until you can undo that and understand it, but really on almost like on a molecular level, nothing's going to change. And this is why people say on the outside, but that's crazy. Why is that person staying in there? People die in the relationship sometimes. It's serious. So it is like, that's how love is supposed to be like. If I'm not feeling that kind of intensity or absence of intensity, that's not love. So and then,
it's like the way I kind of describe it, and sometimes people will, this makes it easier to understand, like on a physical level. Let's say you've grown up in a household where all you've done is eaten junk food. That's what was around. There was never any exercising, so you grow up and you are unhealthy and unfit and feel uncomfortable, might be overweight or have other health issues. And you go, right, that's it. Like, I want to change this. Yes. The first step is understanding, right? Gaining the knowledge that you never had. So going to a nutritionist and going to a trainer, and they explain, yes, what health looks like, what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to exercise. You're supposed to eat these things. And now now you have the knowledge, but try then to go on that. Try to start to eat really healthy and very different from how you used to be, fruit and vegetables, and start to go out and exercise on a daily basis. You might do it, but there's going to be so much discomfort and resistance in your body, right? Like your body's going to be aching and uncomfortable. And it's like, I have to get up again this morning. I just want to stay in. I'm tired. I'm sick of this. Or, you eat the healthy food and it doesn't feel satisfying. You're craving your old stuff, and even though logically, the old stuff is junk, the crisps and like sweets and all of that is junk. It's not healthy for you. You know what it's done to you. And yet you can't help but have strong cravings for it, right? It's almost out of your control. Your body's like, no, this is not how we do it. This is not what's normal for us. So it pulls us to what is quote unquote normal for us, what we've grown up with, what we associate with who we are. What feels comfortable in our body is not what's healthy. Yeah. So you've got to, it's the same thing with the internal, our emotional state, our psyche, is that what we were exposed to, it is what is comfortable. It might be uncomfortable being obviously in an unhealthy relationship, yet something about the fact that it's known to us is what our heart and our instincts are going to draw us to. And the healthy relationship, quote unquote, if we are in a situation where we haven't worked on ourselves and a healthier person comes along, so let's say, it's going to feel boring, like eating the healthy food often feels boring and uninteresting, and it doesn't have flavor and it doesn't have taste. that's what, when you strive towards changing your patterns and dating more healthier people, the relationship, as you were saying, the anxiety is associated with excitement. The new healthier relationships are often going to feel quite boring, uninteresting. You're not going to get much energy from it. So it takes a while for your internal state to readjust to that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people associate that calmness as boredom, as, oh, this isn't exciting. I must not be, this must not be my soulmate because this isn't intense and it's not passionate and there isn't any desire. So, especially because that's what we see in movies is like two people, when they finally come together and they're right for each other, it's explosive, right there. It's just this intense experience. And so if I'm not having that experience, then that means I'm not in the right relationship.
So does it get exciting though? If someone, like for me, sex is important to me. It's so important that I barely ever have it because I'm mostly single and I don't want to go and have like random bad sex. Like I'd rather be with some, so, I want to know, am I holding out? Like, am I holding back for a good reason? Like, is it going to be good with someone I'm feeling calm with?
Yeah. So because it's the same thing once you get on a health kick, like initially that transition phase, that healing phase is very uncomfortable. And it doesn't make sense to your body and the new stuff doesn't feel satisfying and it might actually leave you feeling uncomfortable and unfulfilled. But as you continue to do it and you become more and more of that, then all of a sudden you get to a point where your body starts to actually crave the healthy stuff and starts to crave the exercise. And as you become that new state becomes enjoyable.
Yeah. I was, and I agree with you because I've already actually started to experience that. I was just asking because I know this is going to, maybe if that was a question that was in my head, I remember when I first met you, it's going to be probably a question for other people too. Mm-hmm. But I've definitely, once I've started to meet, to go on a date with a very different type of men before. And it has nothing to do with culture or anything like that, or where they were from. It's just like the fabric of them, and where they were in their life and what they wanted and, and that kind of stuff. And at the beginning, I was struggling. I remember I used to call you up and I was like, what, am I broken? Am I never going to feel attracted to a guy, to a good guy? And basically, little by little, I started to experience that actually, this one I like, let's go on a few dates and actually feeling relaxed because there was this calm.
Yes.
Made the physical thing a lot better because my body was relaxed. And as a woman, you have to relax,
Yes.
to the point to feel relaxed. And for the first time in a long, long time, I hadn't had this kind of like this feeling of calm and enjoyable physicality with someone in that way since I was like in my 20s with a boyfriend I had at university. That was like a really great relationship. There was issues, but I'm just saying it's like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I remember now, now, And so is this why when someone feels familiar with everything you said, right? With like, with the people who are like in abusive relationship, toxic relationship, etc. Is this why when someone feels familiar to you, like, oh my God, I feel like I've known you my whole life? Is that why it's bad?
Yes, that's it. And we'll say things like, oh my God, we met. It's like we could talk for hours. It's like I knew him forever. Yeah, you did. You do. On some level, you do know him or her forever because they are replicating some of your early experiences. So they are embodying some of the sort of the characteristics of your caretakers, people you've known all of your life. And so that dynamic feels very familiar because
they remind you of your daddy and your mommy.
And it's an unconscious thing. It's totally unconscious, right? So we don't know. We just know we feel like comfortable on some level around them. And we don't know where that, we think, again, it must be my soulmate. It must be we're right for each other. We're destined to be together. That's why. No, it's just replicating old patterns, replicating old characteristics that are very familiar to you. So it's unconsciously giving you that sense of comfort. It's similar to again, going back to food. If you, let's say your mom, every time you got sick, gave you a certain thing like chicken soup, the next time you have it, that experience of having that chicken soup will bring up comfort. right? Because it's familiar to you and it got associated with comfort. And so when we see aspects of them that remind us unconsciously of our old, we just feel comfortable. We feel like we've known this person all of our life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because I loved you done the analogy with health, for example, because that's exactly what I experience with my health clients, is that I can see. So I'm at a different stage than they are, for example. And so they are at a stage where they're doing a lot of things that are wrong for them, that is making them sick. And whether it's the type of medication they keep on taking or whatever it is, or whether it's types of food or lifestyle stress as well, dynamic in the family. So I can see that, but I cannot go from the first session go, oh yeah, all of that is wrong, you need to change it.
Absolutely not.
I cannot do that. And also I don't want to do that because, I have to also make sure that, I could always be wrong too. I could miss something. But basically this is what I've noticed, that I go super, it's all about, it's in the little things. And once they start to see how that little thing is making them feel so much better, or they feel a difference, they have to feel it on their body. That's the key. Once they feel it on their body, they're like off to the stars. And sometimes I'm a bit scared. I'm like, wow, you're really going for it. Like they start to upgrade themselves without me even really having to do that much anymore, because they're like, oh, look what I've done, and this is it. And they almost forget to do the bad habits. But it takes a while. They'll be like, they'll fall back into it. It takes a while. It's a process. But that's the thing, is that you have to meet people where they are. And unless they feel it on their own body and they realize for themselves, it's not going to change. This is why people keep on smoking. This is why smoking is a whole other beast. But that's why people keep doing the things they're not supposed to do. Everyone knows that, smoking is bad for you, or taking drugs is, cocaine or crack cocaine or heroin. Everyone knows it's bad, but that the issue is not that. So
and the interesting thing is that the thing that is bad for you also gives you the relief when you do it, right? Like with smoking, it's shitty for you. If smoking is terrible and it's corroding your health, and yet it's the thing that like gives you a sense of relief in the moment. And that's what like bad relationships are often like as well. It's like you feel lonely, you feel insecure, you feel all these things, and in the moments when you meet that person, you almost get, it's like a high when there's excitement. And going back to what you said, I really want to like unpack that point that you made, because it's a really important one, when you said like, I didn't realize I associated the anxiety with excitement. Now, what we know about anxiety and excitement is that in the body, it gives the same experience. There's heart palpitations. There's, your blood rushes. It's more alertness, all of that. And depending on how we're looking at it, we can call it anxiety or we can call it excitement. So it's our perception or mislabeling of the experience that we think that when we meet that person, like you said, it was bringing up anxiety, but you were seeing it as excitement. Because the body has the same reaction. When you think about other emotions like sadness or fear, the body has a very different experience. When we're sad, we have a different, like we crouch down, we've collapsed into ourselves, we feel very low energy. Whenever we're fearful though, we might be alert and like ready to run. So the body has a very different experience. So we can go, oh no, I'm feeling fear here, or I'm feeling sadness. Whereas with anxiety and excitement, it's about the same bodily experience. So we often mislabel those like chaotic relationships as exciting.
But I think there is still a difference though, because, obviously, this to do with like stress hormones, like adrenaline, cortisol and stuff like that. I think there's still a difference in terms of, in my experience, that this is not going to sound good, but in my experience, when I'm feeling excited is one feeling, but when I was confusing this anxiety with passion, anxiety, that feeling, like you said, like super alert, so alert that you're almost paranoid because you look at everything, you read into everything. But that anxiety feeling, there is no mistaking it because now that I'm aware of it.
Yes.
Because anxiety will make you detox. I mean, honey, you could go to that toilet 10 times before it hits 12 o'clock when it really hits bad. And you're like, I haven't even had breakfast yet. What the fuck's going on? It's like, that feeling is a very different. It's probably the palpitation and the alertness, all of this are hitting those points in your central nervous system. But effectively, the comfort zone is the comfort of
it's absolutely that. It's like nuance. There's a nuance there that you have to recognize to be able to tell difference. Absolutely. Because you're with anxiety as well. There's an aspect of like fearing the experience, like, oh, how's it going to be? Are they going to judge me? I want to be perfect. I want to be whatever. But again, like we think that means because we really like the other person. All right. We really like the other person. So we want to come across as a certain way. And so it is really about sort of like deciphering the difference. But majority of people, again, that's what we see in movies where there's such intensity of emotional experience that we think that only then that means that that's an internal radar that we're with the right person because we're so intensely excited, quote unquote, or anxious about it. And really it could just be because it's hitting in our insecurities. The other person is bringing out our insecurities, and that's why we're having that experience.
Yeah. But I think, and I think like, I guess I would like to round that bit up is that I think there's also a part of, even if you are in a toxic, let's say if you are in a toxic relationship, let's say it's abusive or whatever it is, or you both, go down and just take loads of drugs and alcohol and you have to go in and out of rehab, whatever it is. I think there is that feeling. It's the same feeling when I smoke, when I used to smoke, and I say smoking because I know I'm always ever a couple of bad decisions away from smoking again. That's how it is. It's for life almost, that feeling. But whether it's like those kind of relationships or smoking or doing things that are bad for you, it's almost sometimes it's that thing that you want to rebel, and it's giving a finger to the universe. And also when you are with someone else, so when you two of you doing that together, and it's bad, I think it's that feeling of the Bonnie and Clyde. It's you against the world. And that makes it really close. And that makes it even harder to break, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's exactly that. It's like misery loves company. Now you have someone that really sort of you can commiserate with. And it does feel like love definitely, when you fall into like a state of romantic love, it does create a deep attachment to one another and a sense that like we are together now. I don't have to face the crappiness of the outside world on my own anymore. I have someone to go do that with.
Yeah.
And actually what you're not realizing is you over time, you're going to be destroying one another. Right. Because neither one of you has any understanding of what is healthy. So, you're going to just feed into each other's bad behaviors. And over time, you're going to like destroy one another and the relationship.
Yeah. 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 It's because I watched a documentary last night. Can I Be Me? Is Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. And I mean, obviously I never met them, so I can't, I don't know how much of it is accurate, etc. But I think it can happen also like if you feel so lonely, like she was so isolated, she couldn't be herself. She had to fit into a mold. And here comes this guy who's more from the same background of her, he's a bit more street. And she was actually, more street than what she was portraying. And so it was them together against the world. And so never mind the destruction that then unraveled, and led to her death. And, and it's awful. But yeah, so I think there is that feeling of the Bonnie and Clyde sometimes. And I mean, we all at the end of the day, we're all walking down this earth alone. We are, we do, as much as we need company, we do experience everything ourselves, the fear, the stuff. It's amazing to have someone there to walk with us. And I think sometimes we do make too big of a compromise, maybe on ourselves and on the partners because we don't want to be doing everything alone because it's scary, sometimes.
Oh my God, it's terrifying. It's a really terrifying experience. And at the same time, like that's part of the reason why we look for people that feed into our wounds, because then we don't have to work on them. right? Like if you pick someone, let's say, that has that very different eating style than you, they're healthy, then now you have to, in order to continue to be with them, do the work to like, get healthy yourself to sustain that relationship. But if you find someone that eats as terribly as you and is whatever, then it requires nothing of you. And so it's easy then to stay in that space, and then both of you justify each other's actions.
Okay,
growth is really hard.
Yeah,
growth is really,
hard.
really hard.
There's so many other questions I wanted to ask you, but I feel like what you just said led very well into one that I was going to ask a bit later, but I want to ask you now. Because you were saying about growth, and if you're with someone that doesn't require you to grow, that you're just comfortable, but it's the wrong match for you. You said something once, I went to one of your talks, and this leads into this thing that you said when I went to watch you at a talk, and you said, relationship is not about happiness, about how it becomes happiness. I may be misquoting you completely, but it was about how, people are looking for happiness when they're dating in a relationship. And so, no, I'm going to let you explain.
Okay. That was definitely the right idea. Yeah. A lot of people they think that the relationship indication of whether they're with the right person or not is how happy they are or not. But that's not the purpose of a relationship. A relationship is there to help you grow as an individual.
Did you mean how happy they make them feel? Like people?
Yeah, in the moment, like how excited you are. Oh my God, we had such a fun date. Like most people, that's what they associate with being with the right person, is how fun their dates are. Right?
Yeah,
how exciting it is, which is one aspect of it. Yes, that's fine. But imagine like you evaluated other aspects of your life that way, how fun it is to go to work. Yes. Like, and I always use this analogy of like, even if you got your dream job, like nothing better, you absolutely love it. You got hired, that the way that you feel in that first day doesn't mean that every single day you're going to experience that.
Of course.
And it doesn't mean that like, because you got hired on, let's say, whatever criteria or skill set you have, that's it. Like you can stay at that level and be successful at that job. Usually we're hired at a certain skill set, but over time, let's say we say in that job for the next 5 years, we're going to be required to develop new skill sets, to be challenged, to be, feel uncomfortable, to continue to grow. And if we resist that growth, let's say, a new project comes in, you have to develop some skill set. And you go, no, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I got hired for. I'm not, okay, you can quit and then go find another one. Right. And you'll be perpetually going from job to job because you don't want to be challenged. You just want to be evaluated for how you were on day one of that job to like 5 years from now. Like, no, that when you take on a job, no matter how perfect you are and how perfect the job is for you, that if you stay long term, you're going to have to grow some level. You're going to have to be challenged, and you accept that challenge as part of working. Now, if you don't, let's say you resist that, firstly, you might go from job to job. Next, even if then that job requires nothing of you, the day one, the skill set you had is all you need for the rest of your life in that job, you will get incredibly bored, right? Mm-hmm. If you've been doing the same repetitive thing and haven't grown for 5 years, it's going to be so boring for you. Yeah. So the part of what makes us happy as individuals is taking on challenges and growing from that. And yet somehow we miss that point when it comes to relationships. If you two are going to stay the exact same way all of your life,
oh no,
you're that relationship is going to get so stale and so boring. Right. So when we're confronted with challenges in a relationship and we momentarily don't feel happy, the objective isn't to like go, oh, well, I don't feel happy like I used to when I first met you, so I'm out. It's to understand, what is this challenge requiring of me, this conflict that the two of us are having? How is it requiring me to grow as an individual, to face some of my fears and insecurities? What is it pulling out of me or in me? And then you evaluate that and you decide, oh, do I want to take the steps in growing this way? And if you do, then if you both grow, then the relationship then gets stronger and more intimate and more connected. And therefore, the work that you do, the byproduct of that is all the wonderful things a relationship is supposed to offer you. The happiness that you're looking for is the byproduct of the work that the two of you put in together to cultivate the relationship. But it's not just to be happy from day one and never do any work and always be, always sustain that happiness.
Right.
That's not the point.
So basically, people are basically confusing happiness with the seed, like the seed they're putting in the soil, versus actually the plant that comes out of it, the flower that comes out. So the happiness is that flower that's grown out, or the fruits that have come out, not the seed. So people are focusing on, well, I was happy how I felt when that seed was there, but now, I don't want to water it. I don't want to do anything so that I can be happy and enjoy the fruits. Okay.
Absolutely. Right? We're chasing that. We're chasing that happiness constantly. And so we want to go on good dates, and we want, and all people will say things like, okay, like we're struggling, let's go on a holiday. And then they go on a holiday and they get like that superficial, injection of like happiness and being removed from their life and having like a new space, fun things to do. And it's exciting. And they go, oh, we can be happy together. And then they come back though. And then the old stuff comes up. And then they resist that. The more you resist the conflicts and try to keep, quote unquote, harmony and peace and, whatever, the less you're doing the work that you need to continue to grow, and that relationship will die.
So what does that mean in real life? Like, how do you do that work? How does it look like? How do you grow together?
Let's see.
So instead of going on a holiday, so let's say things are stale and you like not even talking, are you saying like to deal with the conflict and, with what you were saying, like to deal with the conflict and to deal with the situation, are you saying like it's better to have like a really good throwdown and just like have it on the table than just going, let's play nice and go on a holiday? Or is that also the wrong way to do it? Like,
yeah, I mean, no, definitely not a throwdown.
When I say throwdown, I mean an argument, like,
Yeah, have an argument, have it like, allow the conflict to come out, right? Don't avoid it is the first step. But how you approach solving the conflict is, again, reinforces this notion of like happiness or growth. So for instance, most people, when they have conflict, they go, you're now doing this thing that I don't like, and you need to stop doing it so I can be in love with you again the way I used to. Right. So they make the demands on their partner does something. Let's say they used to spend all their time together and whatever. And now their like partner is like going out with their friends or not like focusing on let's say their work or their business and stuff. And they're not around as much as they used to. They're not texting you every morning going, oh my God, I love you. You're so pretty, whatever it is. Right. And then we go, you used to do these things, or you used to be with me all the time. Or what is, what's going on? Like, I need you to be the way you used to be so I can feel happy again. And I can like you again. I could be in love with you again. So that's the way most people fight. It's just like pointing the finger and going, this thing that you're doing is making me unhappy. So you need to change back to who you were, or change to a new thing that makes me feel okay again.
Yeah. And that makes you're making someone else responsible for your emotional well-being.
Totally. You're making someone else responsible. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's also blackmail a little bit, because you can't stop someone from being who they are, because you want to force someone. I understand the notion, because, I've done that too before. I understand that feeling of, wait, why don't you text me every day anymore?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and that in itself, we're like resisting the growth of the relationship, right? Like the relationship, in order to continue to grow and evolve, like you cannot have the same behaviors you did on like month 1 in month 3. Like, it needs to evolve. It needs to shift and change. And we almost like, because we're looking for the perfect person, quote unquote, our soulmate. And then the way we find them, we go, okay, now you're perfect. You're wonderful. And this experience is wonderful. Now I'm going to have to capture it forever. And as things like change in them or change in the relationship, we panic and we want to like pull it back to how it was. Oh no, I finally found you. You were this way, and this is what I felt. I want to keep you that way. Right? We resist that natural evolution and growth. But what to keep in mind is that you cannot, there's no way you can prevent a relationship from evolving and changing, because going back to what I was saying earlier, the relationship isn't something outside of you to be captured. It's the two of you coming together and intersecting that creates the relationship, right? And if you look at a person, you look at yourself, you are always shifting and changing. Like who you are today is not who you were 5-10 years ago, nor is it going to be who you are 5-10 years from now. So if you're changing and evolving and every human being is changing and evolving, obviously that intersection of the relationship is going to be evolving and changing. So if you are trying to keep the relationship or your partner exactly as is, as you found them, then you are resisting the natural of evolution of life, the natural growth that needs to happen on an individual level. And so you will stunt the other person or yourself, and the relationship will start to feel more and more suffocating.
Yeah. So in terms of like, in practicality, so for example, the example you were giving before, like, the behavior is changing from month 1 to month 3, month 6, year 2, year 5. So in terms of making sure that you both grow and you don't suffocate the relationship, when something is coming up, and this sounds more like a trigger, because if the person is still there in the relationship with you, it means that they're still hopefully in the game, and they're still, showing with their actions, or whether they're still into you. But so I guess the thing is to basically just take a step back and
take a step back and evaluate. What you always need to do when a conflict comes up is, why is this conflict coming up? What about me? What in me is this issue touching that's making me insecure? All right. So let's take that example. I said that the person's not texting you as much anymore. Maybe they're focusing on their work and they're more involved in their business and stuff. And so you're not getting the attention, the connection that you used to. So the first thing, rather than telling your partner, you need to be doing what you used to be doing, is to ask yourself, why is this making me panic so much, right? Like, what is it about their lack of ability to be there as much for me? Or I'm used to them texting me every morning and being with me, 4 times a night, or in the week, but they're not available. They're on business trips or whatever. Why is this? And often it's like issues will come up of our own insecurity. Does he care for me as much as he used to if he's not texting as much, right? I need the connection, or I'm not doing much with my own life. And so there's a lot more void, like empty space, when he's not filling it. So it'll often be bringing up things in us that we need to insecurities we need to confront about feeling alone, or insecurities we need to confront about I'm not doing enough in my own life, or whatever it is that it's bringing up those insecurities in us. That's why we're latching on. Because think about if you were busy in your own life and cultivating and growing as an individual, you actually do want your partner to give you some space so you can focus on that.
Yes.
Right? But if you're basing your entire happiness or whatever it is on your partner, then you need them to consistently be around. Or if you have issues with your own self-worth, getting that text every morning that says you're beautiful and I love you or whatever, that keeps reaffirming that, okay, they love me and I'm good enough. They love me and I'm good enough. Whenever we then feel a void for a couple of days, we don't hear that being said to us, it's like our own self-worth issues come back up again, right? Oh my God, does he love me? Does he really care? Is he busy with someone? That will come up. And that's the stuff that needs to be confronted within us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think this is why, it's so important, like you're saying, be busy. And it's definitely important to make sure as much as we can, just to have a full life, because I've experienced that from both ends. I remember years ago, I was dating this guy and he was super busy, and he was, he had his own business, and he had he was working 7 days a week. But it's basically, I then be almost, then my life became more like his later, after we weren't seeing each other anymore. But I remember I was thinking, he's not making time. I was just so annoyed. And then when I then became really busy and had so much going on with my life, when I would date guys and they'd be doing this to me, I'd be like, God, they're being so needy. They're really annoying me. And this is why I think it's so important that I'm going to say this to the ladies, because I'm a woman, so I relate to women, but it's actually, even if you're a man, it's the same thing, actually, absolutely the same thing. Just be busy. It's important to have things that are going on in your life, because then you're less likely even going to notice if someone's not texting you as much. And you're probably not going to want them to text you as much because you have things going on, and you're going to be understanding when someone is taking a bit longer to reply to you, because you know what it's like to be busy or to have things going on for you that's outside of the relationship, outside of the other person.
Absolutely. And the thing that to keep in mind with that is that the less we are cultivating other areas of our life, the more now we're relying on the relationship to meet all of our needs, right?
Yeah.
If our only source of like happiness is coming from the relationship because we're bored at work and we don't have a good social circle, or we don't have other things we're interested in, then there's no other area of our life that is giving us joy or excitement or novelty or connection or whatever it is. So now the relationship has to meet all of those needs in us.
Yeah. And that's just too intense, isn't it?
It's too much. And that's the thing that like has happened over time. That wasn't the case before. Back in the day, we didn't require that our partner meet every need because we lived in community settings and we had other people to go to for depth and connection and conversation or support and help. But nowadays, like our partner's supposed to be everything for us. They're supposed to be there and help us with housework and kids or dating and fun and be totally exciting in the bedroom and passionate, but give us the stability and the consistency and the intimacy, like every aspect of our life. It's like some areas are almost contradictory, but they're supposed to do it. They're supposed to fulfill all of that needs. And it just becomes often overwhelming for the other person.
So I've got a question for you with what we're saying just now is, so we've talked about triggers and, those things you basically just have to deal with it ourselves and make sure we have a fulfilled life and all that. So our emotional health doesn't depend on someone else. So at what point do we express something to a partner? What are the things you express to them and actually deal with it and deal with whatever's going on so that you can grow as a couple?
You always express it. So that person who is feeling like their partner is like pulling away, it's the way we express it, right? Like if we feel like, oh, you're not texting me as much and you are now busy with work or your like other hobbies, we often go, you don't care about me like you used to anymore. You don't do this and you don't like, that's the way we tend to express it. So we express it in like angry and aggressive ways and accusatory, like we need you to change your life and be different so then I can be okay. Rather than saying, babe, like I just feel that we're not as connected. I don't know. I don't hear from you as much and you're really busy from work and I'm feeling a little bit like lonely or disconnected, like what's happening. And so it's a way to like invite the other person in to try to diagnose the situation with us and figure it out together rather than I feel this way and you're responsible for making me feel any differently. Right. So it's connecting and it's trying to understand and it's looking at your own self and going, I feel this way. What do you feel? Do you feel disconnected? And he or she might be saying the same thing. You're right. Like, I do feel that we're not as connected as we used to. We need to kind of maybe put more effort in. I can't text you every morning because this is what I'm working on. And this is, for us to get a deeper understanding of our partner and ourselves, the conversation needs to be had in a non-accusatory way. Like in an exploratory way of like, we need to understand what's happening here rather than, again, going back to that notion of you need to make me happy. You no longer are making me happy. So you need to change your behavior. Because once we accuse them, you're not texting as much anymore. You're not around it as much anymore. Now, what happens when we accuse someone? What happens when we get accused? When we're under attack, we need to either attack back or we retreat and we have to give in. Right? In either way, the space you're putting your partner in is to either submit to your will and feel like defeated, or to attack back and go, well, oh, you're not so great anymore. You used to do these things and you don't, and then now we're now having a conversation or an argument that actually has nothing to do with the original point.
So, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think definitely you're right. I think if you accuse someone and you say you're doing this, you're doing that, like the person's going to be on the back foot. Like there's nothing more annoying than just being accused of crimes you didn't even know you committed. It's like,
totally.
Yeah, but it's the worst. But so I was just, the example you gave, and someone says, if you come to your partner and you say, look, I don't feel as connected anymore. And if they turn around and say, yeah, I don't feel as connected anymore. If I heard that, I'd feel devastated. I'd be like, oh, is this the end? But that's how my mind works, right?
Yes.
So
why? So my question is, why would you feel devastated? You just had an honest conversation about the fact that maybe you two have not been nurturing and looking after the relationship as much as you need to.
So I would equate it to them not feeling that their feelings are gone and it's not coming back. And I know it's not true.
And but that's it. That's beautiful. So that's exactly it. That would be your next question. So you just keep expressing your fears. Like, oh, does that mean you've lost interest and you don't want to be together? Like, what's happened, right? But we don't say it that way. Like that requires so much openness and vulnerability and risk to say it that way. And when we feel that fear and vulnerability, we often go into like attack mode or cover up mode. We sort of retreat. We pull away. We go, well, fuck that. Like they don't care about me. I'm not going to care about them either. Or we start to pull away, or we attack them. Well, I've been here for you. Why? So that this, what you just said is how to keep the conversation going and how to keep cultivating the intimacy and connection.
Wow. I'd be scared. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like I'm saying exactly, I'm proving the point here by saying, well, I'd be too scared to say it, but that's the issue. That's
about you, right? Yeah. Why are you too scared to say it?
At what point, say, well, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who taught you when you were young that it's not okay to express your depth of feeling, your fears and your concerns? And it's, it all comes from like childhood and parenting and stuff. Like when kids are often like hurt or sad or angry or whatever, parents want to make it better. Oh, what do you want? What do you want? Or either they like shut down that emotion of fear and sadness or whatever that comes up in the kid. Like, oh, you just lost your doll. It's no big deal. Fine. Or, okay, let's help you find it, and they try to like fix the problem or shut the kid down. Like, you have nothing to be upset about. You get everything you want, rather than just staying present with that kid's emotion and going, yeah, I know you like lost your doll. It's really sad. It's really hurtful. And you really loved it. And allowing the kid to express their feeling and then go, okay, now how do you want to handle it? We are very uncomfortable with children's, like parents are often uncomfortable with their kids being hurt or sad or whatever. And so we'll cover it up, and unconsciously that teaches us it's not safe to be vulnerable. It's not safe to be open. I'm just going to get rejected, or I'm going to get love withdrawn from me. So then we always put on a happy, face. And it goes back to what we think a relationship is supposed to be, which is happiness, because of the fact that we think we associate a successful relationship with happy and joy and this and that. Whenever we are having moments where we're struggling, when it's bringing out insecurities or fears and stuff, it doesn't fit in with our notion of the perfect ideal relationship. So we pull away from that, and we don't have those very tough, hard, heart-to-heart, vulnerable, risky conversations.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, but I think also a lot of it, I mean, you said that with childhood, I think a lot of it also has to do with perception. So I know for myself, it's just how I saw things. It wasn't the reality of it either. Yes. So, because for me, like, for example, like, my mom she's extraordinary. Right? She does want me to be happy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And she's a single mom as well. She was busy. So,
yes. Yeah.
So I think it's also just how sometimes there is a part of it. Yeah, there is nurture, but there's also nature. I'm definitely someone who I always need a bit of time for me to express myself sometimes. And I've always been like that. I just need like a couple of days to know exactly what's going on. And so, or I have to just calm down as well. Sometimes I just calm down. And so I think when we're adults, I think it's important to, because it's not cute, I think, to blame it on childhood anymore. Like that's not, I think it's very important to take responsibility and to go, okay, well now, I know better. Now it's important. And I think it's important that I get out of my comfort zone. And this is part of also, I guess this podcast is definitely getting, I love doing it, but it's definitely a big leap for me. And my business is a big leap as well, like in the health and the skincare consultancy. All of the things were leaps because I was tired of playing small. And I think I am still struggling, obviously, in areas of, I playing small, but definitely I think in relationships, I think those are the hardest, because it sometimes feels like maybe the stakes feel so high, because when you have this closeness with someone and you really enjoy that person, you like that person, you rocking the boat is the scariest feeling.
The last thing you want is to lose them, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if your heart is with them, then like what bigger risk is that? Right. And I think to your point about like not blaming our childhood, this is something that I tend to get a lot when like clients come, and some people, when we're trying to unpack what happened in their early years, they go, well, I can't blame my parents. They did the best they could. The point is never to blame them, because they only did what they could from the understanding they had. The reason to sort of unpack or understand your childhood is to understand your particular like triggers and issues and stuff. So what you just said, like, oh, I need more time to process something. See, like that could have come from anywhere. It could be innate. It could be something that you were taught. And like, once you learn that about yourself, you can then communicate that to your partner. Like, look, I really want to have this conversation with you, and I want to like unpack it and figure it out, but I can't, because I actually need a little bit of time to process this, to calm down and to really think about it. So I'm going to come back tomorrow and we're going to sit, but you need to have that understanding about yourself. Sometimes people don't have that awareness, and they'll just walk out right in the middle of an argument. They just go, I can't, they feel themselves getting heated. They feel themselves that they're just going to attack and get aggressive. So they just sort of disengage. And when they disengage without explaining what in the world's happening with them, because they might not even understand it, the other person then goes, oh, I'm in right now, right here, crying or angry or falling apart, and you just walk away. You obviously don't love me and care about me. Right? And then they react to that. So part of understanding our childhood and understanding ourselves is to understand how we work. How we work. It's like giving like a computer to someone and being like, figure it out, and not giving a manual. Like the more we understand ourselves, the more we can hand our partner a manual and go, this is the way I work, so that they're not personalizing our behavior as a lack of love or concern or care for them.
Yeah. I think this is so true, because absolutely. And I think sometimes it's sometimes just to have like go-to sentences as well of what to say if
for sure
you come into that. And I never used to have those. I never knew that, oh wait, I thought I had to deal with it straight away because the person was right in front of me wanting to like, have that conversation. I'm like, well, I don't even know why I'm feeling or why I'm mad or why I'm this. And so I think there's actually a one that I saw once. I think it was in a Facebook group. But for example, if you're texting, and they may be asking questions that are probably better to have in person, but let's say they're asking or they're pushing on something, and you don't know what to say, and you're just being a bit silent, and they send you a question mark. Hey, a great answer is, I'm just processing. Oh no, it's not that. It's I'm reflecting. So you can say I'm reflecting. And that's like, no one can really say anything about that. It's like, oh, okay, they're reflecting. So they're not ignoring me. They just need to
and you know what? It would also help if you just said that too. Like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just processing, right? Because you have to acknowledge the other person's like feelings and fears. And that's the thing. It's like, we often forget to, we're so busy trying to solve the problem. We forget to acknowledge their emotional experience. But most people, they don't necessarily need a perfect solution to the issue. And sometimes you almost can't come up with a perfect solution because you're too different and you each want something different. But it always acknowledge the other person's emotional experience. Like, I know it might feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm not, I'm just processing it. Because once you do, the other person feels heard, feels seen, and they don't have to fight to be heard, to be seen.
Can we please say that to guys? Because guys will not say that. Guys will be silent for days and they don't say it. Guys, can you just fucking just say it? Just say, I'll get back to you. Easy, simple. Just say that.
So It's so simple. And it's funny, like when I work with a lot of guys, like, you know, the way a guy's brain works, and they just don't have as many opportunities to like process emotions as we do. You know, when you think of like little girls on the playground, and if she's had a bad day, let's say her brother got mad at her or something, and they had an argument, and she comes, like a 9-year-old girl, like comes to school and like tells her friends, and everybody's like giving her a hug and asking her how she feels, and he's so mean, he did that to you, you know. It just, like, she has so much opportunity to process her feelings and talk about her emotions and her experience. Whereas imagine a 9-year-old boy coming to school and going, I got in a fight with my sister and hurt my feelings, to his friends. That would never happen, right? So like, guys don't have the opportunity to process their emotions and their feelings as much, so they don't know how to communicate it. So often they'll get overwhelmed and they need to detach. They just need to escape. Like, it's like when you're in a situation and you're getting overstimulated, let's say you're in a very crowded mall, you're getting overstimulated. You just need to step out. You need to get away. And that's what's happening in their head, is they're overstimulated, they're overwhelmed, and they just need to disengage. And if a guy, all he has to do is say, this isn't about you. I'm getting overwhelmed. I really want to work on this issue. Let me get back to you, and give a specific time frame, like in 2 days time, whatever, that will calm a lot of the issues. But yes, they get overwhelmed and overstimulated, and they disengage because they need time to process. And we take it as, you don't care what's happening, and it causes more anxiety in the partner. Oh, you just disappeared on me or whatever. And she then will get angry. Oh, you just don't care, do you? And then attack more, which will make him more overstimulated, unable to process, and he'll disengage more.
Yeah, and then he'll be put off, and he'll then probably
totally. We end up unintentionally pushing the relationship to its demise.
Yeah.
So so let me give like an example of how not to to try to dig deeper and understand one another's feelings and where a problem is coming from. Like the whole growth thing. Like when a problem comes up, it's often asking you to grow as an individual and look at your insecurities. But if we don't recognize that, then we end up causing this destruction of the relationship. So let me think about it. A compilation. Okay, so this is sort of a compilation of couples that came to me. So the couple was struggling to maintain the relationship. And one of the things was like, she wanted commitment. She wanted him to say, I'm committing to you. And he kept resisting that. He was like, look, I'm with you. We're together. But I don't want to label it, right? I don't want these specific labels. And anyway, can human beings even be with one person forever? Because what if I have urges to be with other people? What does that mean? So they sort of came in struggling with this idea of a commitment and wondering if like maybe polyamory, opening up their relationship to other people would be a solution to keeping desire and passion and all that going. So what it turns out, and it takes a long time to come to this point, but it was that, she kept like arguing for the point of that word commitment, and he kept resisting it. And neither of them had actually like asked, what is commitment? Like, what does actually that word mean to you? And for him, when we talked about commitment, it came up as like suffocation, as feeling cornered, as feeling beholden to the other person. And for her, it was like security, stability, a show that you genuinely care about this person and want to be with them. So when we unpacked the word, it like different emotions came up. Of course, when she heard that for him, commitment meant suffocation, getting stuck or whatever, that upset her more, right? Oh, so that's what you think I am to you.
But when she said commitment, did she say like to be a boyfriend-girlfriend title or marriage? Or moving in together? What commitment for her was?
Like they were basically acting like boyfriend-girlfriend and not dating. They were exclusively dating, but so it was the boyfriend.
It was the boyfriend title she wanted, boyfriend-girlfriend.
She wanted the title, and he was basically like, I am that. But she sort of wanted the guarantee that they are staying together, like long-term. Right. And he was like, well, I don't know. We'll see as it goes.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, if problems come up, I'm not committing to you and let's just staying with you for the sake of staying with you. So when we sort of kept unpacking this, more and more. It turns out, like, in her childhood, her father had some mental health issues. So he had like sort of like features of manic depressive. So there was like highs and lows, and they had a very close connected relationship. So she loved him. He gave a lot of love and nurturance to her, but like, because of his mental health issues, it was like, he could be inconsistent, right? He can go into a sort of a depressive state for a few days, sort of retreat, not be available, and like and there was a lot of instability in the home as a result of it. A lot of arguing between the parents, and her relationship with her father was unstable. So what she needed was stability. What she craved on a very, very deep level was consistency and stability, and a man saying, I'm here. I'm here for you, and I'm going to be here for you, and I'm going to weather the ups and downs. Because when her father, like when his stuff would come up, he would just retreat and like couldn't hold down a job as a result of it. So a lot of like the issues like fell on the mom to have to like hold down the fort, essentially, right? So and this girl was intimately, again, connected to her father. She knew he loved him and had a good relationship. So it was really painful when he would go into his states, and like she just couldn't sort of like hold on to him, and it would cause a lot of chaos in the home. So she desperately, again, on a very deep level, that like need for every child to have consistency and stability in the home wasn't met. So she needed that from a partner. She was craving that from a partner. And on the other hand, with him, like, it was almost the opposite for him. His home was very regimented. His parents had very clear ideas about what was right, what was wrong, what children were supposed to do. And so it was like him and his siblings had to fit into what the parents wanted. You have to do this, you have to get up at this time, you have to go to this school, you have to, so it was very much like a standard of excellence was imposed on them, and their feelings and their needs were overridden as a result. So he didn't have a choice as a kid to give in. Like every kid craves acceptance and approval of that the parents. And so he gave in. He felt very powerless in that relationship. He gave in and then resented that he had to do it.
Yeah.
So you put these two in a relationship, and she's requiring commitment, and he needs a space to be himself. So he keeps pushing against the fact that he feels like if he says the word commitment, I'm with you, now I have to submit to you.
Yeah.
That's what he felt coordinate. Like you're asking me to be what you want me to be rather than for me to be myself.
Yeah.
And she was saying, oh, if, you really cared and you wanted me, you'd want to be here. You'd want to show up consistently. So they weren't arguing the word commitment or the issue in their relationship. That issue was bringing up deep-seated wounds in each other. And they were trying to get the wound sort of nurtured or fulfilled essentially through controlling each other's behavior, right? She was like, I'm going to force you to be stable. Tell me you're going to be committed to me and be here forever. And then I won't, that part of me that feels that chaos or the instability won't get triggered. And he was like, you need to let me be me. Don't force me to be anything you want. And then I can feel, okay, I won't feel like you're imposing your will on me.
Yeah. She was afraid to lose control, and he was afraid to be controlled.
Yes. And they were like pushing against each other, not because of the issue of commitment. Because the funny thing was, it's like they were, like, all intents and purposes, they were committed to each other. They were boyfriend, girlfriend. They weren't seeing anyone else. They were coming to therapy to work. They were, but their perception and their need like skewed what was happening, and it interrupted the conversation. So when they started to realize this, like, depth, that it wasn't that he wasn't trying to commit to her. His pains were like acting up, and he understood that about her. Then there was a shift in their perception. It was a complete shift, and they were able to show up and give what the other person needed, rather than feeling like, oh, you're going against me or whatever it was. They understood it. This isn't about me. This isn't about me trying to like control you, or this isn't about me trying to get away from you. This is an old wound that was pained and hurt, and that's acting up. And they actually like, it just completely shifted how they interacted.
So how did they do that? Because it feels like only one can win, because either she gives up the will for having the title, or he gives the title, understanding it's not going to change anything.
Bingo.
So who won?
But that's it, right? It feels like there was a winner or loss there if they stayed on that level rather than under. So when they understood what was happening, it was funny because he actually like got up and like went and sat next to her, and there was like a lot of space he kept trying to maintain between them, like as if like he was just feeling suffocated, right? Then once he realized she's not trying to make you, and he actually got up and went and like gave her a hug and was like, of course I want to be here for you. I am here for you. And he just said, like, he just spoke to her feelings and her emotions. And she was like, of course I don't want to make you, force you to stay in a relationship that you're not happy in. That's not what I'm asking you, from you. And so it was like the conversation shifted. It wasn't a win or a lose. It was like each one saw that the other person had a need that they could fill. And they did. They spoke to that need. They spoke to that wound. And that was that.
And that's the happiness you're talking about, isn't it? Is healing from your wounds. That's exactly what happened there, by the sounds of it.
Yes.
So in practicality, though, what did she let go of the title? Did he get what happened? Like, what did they do with it?
That argument disappeared. That argument disappeared because they both realized they're already both getting what they wanted. They're there in a relationship. They're committed to one another. They're not seeing anybody else. And for him, it was like, I'm not being forced to be anything. I'm not. Like, she genuinely wants to understand me. She's like genuinely wants me to be me. They realized that actually they were doing that. They were just speaking in different ways. And so they were like, oh, there's nothing to argue about here.
But it sounds like she's the one who had to let go of the title, because it sounds like they still didn't say that.
Well, they were together. That was the thing. He was giving her, she realized, I am getting commitment. Yeah. She was just wanting this like forever thing. Like, tell me you want to be with me forever.
Yeah, you can't.
Right? And she realized, oh my God, that's ludicrous. That would actually like be working against me, because if I keep a person stuck to me that doesn't want, and I'm imposing my will on them, then they're not going to be the person I want to be anyway. They're not gonna, and so it was like, holy crap, I already have that. He's there for me. He's here. He's committed. He's not seeing anybody else. We are that. Like, I can go with that. I don't need a forever like confirmation that you will be with me forever to like to feel safe. He's making me feel safe on a daily basis by showing.
And how about he though? Did he feel like if he gives the commitment or he gives the type boyfriend, that it wouldn't put him into a jail sentence?
Yes. Because his problem was, you're not hearing me, you're not seeing me, right? And like in that moment where they both heard and saw each other, he was resisting this idea that as soon as I say, yes, I'm with you forever, now you're going to like make me and do into everything, like everything you want. You're going to force me to be a certain way and do a certain, and he realized that's not at all what, like, she's not fighting to make him into anything. She's just insecure and scared that he won't stick around. And he was like, of course I'm going to stick around. Of course I want to be with you. And like, that's, that's it. And it was like, and so she was like, well, of course I don't want to make you into anything. Right. But the funny thing is like when they argued on a superficial level, it did feel like she was imposing her will on him. Yeah. Right. Of course. The more she imposed, like she got angry, she got animated. You don't want to be with me. And so it felt like she was trying to force him into being something. And then he kept pushing away because he was overwhelmed. And then for her, it felt like, see, he doesn't want to be with you. He's retracting. He's pulling away.
Yeah, but she was making that. That's the thing, isn't it? Yes. Like often when we say it, and I had to realize that too, actually, even though I was feeling, I used to confuse anxiety with passion, I also realized that through my behavior, that someone who probably was already a little bit sort of more of an avoidant type or not really, mushy into the feelings, then my behavior, because of the anxiety I was feeling, I was making them worse. So we
elicit. That's it. Yeah. Exactly.
And this is why a guy may not commit to you, but he'll commit to the next girl, because she understood that you cannot push your agenda. And even if I always understood that too, I never realized that I was doing it. So if you could basically create someone who wasn't like that in the first place, you could like if they hadn't come to see you, she would have then, let's say if they broke up, she would be like, he never wanted to commit.
Exactly.
And then 6 months later, he's engaged to someone, right? So
exactly.
It's like someone else. So it's like, and that's the thing. We have to take responsibility to how we feel and how we behave and what we say. And I think a lot of those things are not taught to us, and definitely the movies are not doing it, because in the movies you will see crazy behavior like that, and it's not the person is not crazy. I want to say that the person is not crazy. She's legitimate.
Well, when we act from our fears, right? We are trying to obviously those were deep rooted fears in both of them. Deep-rooted fears and needs that were not met. So because of that intensity of fear, and it's like you're the one that holds the solution to make me feel better. So we almost act out in crazy ways because there's such a desperation there.
But in the movies, that's the thing, in the movies and in pop culture, they are showing that behavior with a positive result, and that is not reality. And that's the big problem, because in a romantic movie, you'll see a girl going completely batshit crazy on the dude, and the dude is still there, and of course he'll marry her. And it's like, no, hello.
Absolutely. Or they'll show a guy who's a womanizer, who's out all the time with all these, and then finally when he meets the right person, it changes and he becomes the perfect boyfriend, right? Because it was because he was going from woman to woman, not because something about him that needed to be validated. It was because it just wasn't the right woman. And it's no, that doesn't happen. A womanizing guy that's mistreating with tons of women doesn't just find the right person and then become the most loving, genuinely, caring. So that's what, in that moment when those two were arguing, they were like, oh, obviously this isn't the right person for me because he doesn't want to commit to me. Oh, and he was like, she's trying to control me. Yeah. Right. That's what they were thinking. So I'm with the wrong person. If I just found someone else that was willing to commit or didn't want to make me into anything, then we wouldn't have these problems. But one thing to keep in mind is when we have intense attraction for one another, and these two started off with very intense attraction for each other, the stronger the attraction and the chemistry often is indicating that the more deeply our wounds have connected and will be coming out. Oh, right? When people say, whenever I have them tell their stories and it was such a intense experience, I'm like, here we go. It's just a matter of time that the craziness is going to come out, because the more on the superficial level we feel desire and attraction for, the more our wounds have pulled each other together and are going to be coming out very soon. But when they come out, our wounds are not coming out to try to destroy each other or us. They're coming out because they're giving us an opportunity to heal them. They unconsciously, those wounds are always playing out. She had this fear in her that she's not worthy and the world's not a secure place, safe place. And this opportunity, this relationship allowed her to take a step back and recognize, holy crap, that's what I've been striving for, security all this time. I'm fearful of taking risks in my life because I keep striving for stability and security. So she realized she was playing small in other aspects of her life. She wasn't taking risks in her career and stuff because all she wanted was the sense of security. And so they these relationships give us an opportunity to for us to look at different parts of us that have been essentially controlling our behavior, but are insecure parts of us, or wounded parts of us. And when we actually do the work and take responsibility, it heals. Yeah. So then not only does the relationship become more intimate and connected, but we grow as individuals in all aspects of our lives.
So you're saying, for example, so those two, they started off highly attracted, super passionate. So obviously that exciting feeling, not the calm feeling. Mm-hmm. So would you say, even if you have that, you're feeling super excited, and I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe those two felt familiar to each other?
Yes. Their first date was just electric, and they spent 24 hours together. Yeah.
Right. So that means, it doesn't mean it can't work out. It just means you're going to have a lot more to do, work to do.
Yeah. So if you look at it from a soulmate isn't there to forever make you happy. A soulmate is there to give you the opportunity for growth and happiness. Right. Yeah. So they were soulmates in that they were each going to really bring out each other's stuff. And if they did the work, then they were going to be healed. And that and happier as a result. So there were soulmates, and there was a deep sense of connection because they were there to help each other grow.
So, but you see why I'm asking you that, right? Because it's circling back to, I was at, should we feel calm, should we feel excited? And so I've been trying to look for the calm feeling, but I guess what I'm taking from this conversation, this example, is that even if you do feel, oh my God, I feel like I've known this person, and you just can't help, you're so attracted. You just have to be prepared for a roller coaster. And if you're both willing to do the work, and only time will tell that, because you can't foresee what this person's going to do. So it can work either way. Either you have that calmness with the excitement, but you just have to be, ready to take the punches almost.
Ready to do the work. Yeah. And by the way, let me preface it that saying that that doesn't mean that you should definitely be staying in every relationship and working through it, because sometimes that attraction, that means that the work you need to do is
walking away.
Yes, but because you whatever had to endure, whatever it was as a kid, and felt stuck in a situation, and here it is, that pattern is repeating, and this time you're an adult, you have the ability to walk away, which is incredibly empowering, right? So in a toxic relationship, in an abusive relationship, walk away. Yeah. The work might be, the healing might be, I now have control. I don't have to endure this. I can leave.
Yeah. And I think this is what I've learned in the last few years, is to learn to walk away for the right reasons. So I either used to run away or get dumped. It was either one. It was always dramatic. But now I've learned to walk away because I was standing up for myself and my values, and I knew what wasn't right for me, and I knew this is such a deal breaker. I cannot overlook this anymore. And so it's to learn to go, do you know what? And it's really hard to leave something that's good, but that's not right. It could be good, but there's just something that is just not right. And those things are going to keep showing up. And it's just, it's to do with the value of someone else. You cannot change the values. If it's to do, I guess maybe that's what we talk about, what we said about the military, and the example about maybe it's to do with the core values. If the core values aren't there, sometimes if they're so clashing, it can be certain things you just can't roll with it. Certain things are just too deep. So
absolutely. So I think people often ask me, how do you know this is a challenge you're supposed to stay and work through and grow from versus one that you should walk away from? And it's a very hard answer to give, because obviously it's an individual basis, but that's sort of the most basic way I can answer this is, if you feel like the challenge is asking you to grow as a person, to expand, to grow more compassion, or to try to understand the person better, right? It's to move out of your ego and into your deeper sense of soul, and open your heart to the person, to be more sensitive to them, to, whatever it is. That if it's an expansive challenge, if it feels like you need to expand more to be able to overcome this, you need to become stronger or more skilled or more compassionate, whatever it is, that's a good challenge. But if the other is that you need to grow, you need to contract in yourself, you need to become smaller, you need to betray a core part of who you are, betray that part of you to be able to stay in this relationship, then that's when you need to walk away from.
Yeah. And I love this, because that actually goes for everything. It's the same thing whether you are, you're having your own business and you making decisions. It's is that fear or that thing you're feeling, is it because you're expanding? For example, doing this podcast, or whatever it is it expanding, or is it diminishing?
Is it keeping you smaller? Is it keeping you, stagnant? Are you retracting? Are you becoming smaller as a person?
Same in a day job. If
everything.
Is it keeping you small? You're not growing, or you have to do things. You have to do a presentation. You're really scared. That is such a good advice that you're giving there, because it goes across everything. I mean, maybe not everything, because I'm not all knowing, but it goes across a lot of different areas.
Many things. Yeah.
Many things.
It's the nature of human beings. We need to always be evolving and growing. And if we resist that evolution, we resist that growth, then life becomes really uncomfortable.
Yeah, right? we need to blossom as humans, not the
really
opposite.
Depressed. Exactly. Yeah. Most people think I'm just going to work my butt off, get the right job, make a lot of money, have that safe, the big house, and have the family, and then just coast.
Yeah.
Nope. You always need to be evolving and changing, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, and that goes from everything in nature. You know, you look at a tree, it doesn't like grow to like 6 feet tall and go, cool, I'm done. Like it's as long as it exists, it's always growing. It's
Even
always,
the roots grow bigger.
yes, always,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
That's the nature of life. The second you stop growing, you start dying.
Look, this has been amazing, Kathrine, by the way. Thank you so much. I think we're going to have to have you, I want to have you come back, and then hopefully maybe also then I'll have some questions as well from listeners, like, you know, putting in
Awesome.
some questions, because now they get a flavor of you, Kathrine. They'll know exactly why I was hyping you up this whole time. So I want to finish up with a little game, and basically it's called, you know, red flag or deal breaker. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you examples, and it's so everything's going well, but this one thing happens. Is it a red flag or a deal breaker?
Okay.
So this is a first date. Everything's going well. The bill arrives, and he wants to split it.
Oof. Oh my God. Okay. It's not a real red flag or a deal breaker. You know, in today's age, with all of the dating that we have to do, poor guys sometimes have to spend so much money. So I'd say this. I'd say if it's like a big bill, you've had dinner or whatever, it's like 50, 60 pounds. That's fair. But if it's like, you know, he bought a drink, which is £4, then that is odd. I would not be comfortable with that. Yeah. So like deal breaker for small bill, large bill, it's fine.
I think if the guy chooses the place though, and it's a very super extravagant place, then that's on him, because I'm like, well,
Absolutely.
I didn't put you there. But if we both choose, okay, so you've been going on a few dates, you had sex for the first time, and you don't hear from him for 3 days.
Ooh, that's bad. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to have to preface it by saying almost nothing for me is like a deal breaker, because it could always mean that something else is going on. But I would say that's a major, 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 major red flag. Yeah. Major red flag. Major.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's awful.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first time, you know, you're having sex. He's happy to wear a condom with you, but it's not his style. AKA, he doesn't wear them if not requested.
Right. That is fine. Like, that's fine. If he's happy to do it with you, it's fine. Because sometimes, let me say this too, like guys, sometimes like we take it as, oh my God, you're wearing a condom or whatever. But in reality, like guys might sometimes think like, I feel like this person is okay, that's why I'm not wearing it. Right. Like, but if they feel like the person is out a lot, sleeping around a lot, they would wear it. So in some ways a backhanded compliment to you, I guess, if he's willing to take the risk and not wear it with you. But like, always wear one if it's and until you 100% trust the individual. But if he is willing to wear it for you, then that's fine.
Yeah, no, I hear that. But I think if the guy, if you know, and he's told you that he sleeps around and he doesn't wear condom then.
Oh, problematic.
That's what I'm talking about.
Should not even be with a person like that.
Exactly. That's like, hello for happy.
Their judgment is so off. They're so reckless. I would never, condone that.
Yeah. Okay. You've been dating for 3 months. He likes and comments on other girls' sexy pictures, but like a lot. Ooh. Like every day.
Yeah, no, that would be a deal breaker.
Okay. You're on a date. It's the first time you go for dinner, and he's a very loud chewer and very loud swallower as well when he drinks.
That depends on how much of a pet peeve it is for you. Oh God!
Think about it. When you're in a relationship, you're gonna be
deal breaker for me.
Deal breaker for you, because it's gonna happen every day, right? If you start to live together.
Oh my God, totally. You have to pick your annoying behaviors, like what you can live with, and if you can live with that, kudos to you. I wouldn't be able to.
And then one more, and then we'll round off. When you're kissing, he makes pleasure noises each time you French kiss, like in public or regardless where.
God, these are all like, okay, deal breakers, but they are my personal deal breakers, right? No one else doesn't mind that because she could be equally loud. So yeah, like, I think what in all these cases is to keep in mind, everybody's going to have annoying behavior. It's what is particularly annoying for you that you can live with or you can't live with, right? So you can't write off everybody for annoying behavior because you probably have some annoying behaviors for them.
Oh, for sure.
So it's just it's a matter of like what you can tolerate. And it goes to what you were saying. Some of these behavior are going to be on a daily basis. You're going to have meals with them on a daily basis or kiss them regularly. So how much of it can you take?
Yeah. That's so true. Okay, so...
And are they willing to change it? They might be willing to change it. Like maybe someone didn't teach them table manners, which is
that's true.
That's an easier fix than he's not a good person, right? So I would say deal breakers always go to people's character. Because a lot of women will come to me and go, oh my God. And then I went to his flat and it was so messy. I can't live with a messy person. And it's like, well, that might mean because he's a bachelor or he's never home. You know, that's an easier fix than the person lies or has been a serial cheater and is saying that you are the one, so they won't do it again. So anything that are character flaws, I would have massive red flags and need to work on it. The other stuff, it's more of a personal tolerance level. How much can you tolerate it, and can it be changed if you're in a relationship?
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Makes a lot of sense. So what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh gosh. Okay. I think what I would tell my 18-year-old self is try to figure out like life. It's going to look so differently than what you can ever imagine for yourself at 18. You know nothing about, you only know very limited amount of stuff in the world at 18 or at any age. So you can only have dreams and imagine things to the degree that you've been exposed to stuff, but there's a lot more out there. So what I would tell my 18-year-old self is stop trying to figure things out. And all you need to do is like trust that things are going to be okay. But whatever is in front of you at that time, do the best you can of your abilities. Do that. Make the best choices with what is happening in your life there and then let the rest unfold as you go.
Perfect. What stuff do you not put up with anymore?
Bad conversations.
Yep.
Bad conversations. No more weather talk. No more small talk.
I know chit chat is the worst.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, okay, so thank you so much for this, Kathrine. Before we finish, can you please tell us where can people find you?
Yeah, so people can find me online. If you just Google my name, there are lots of articles I've written or other videos and podcasts. Or if you want to get in touch, just go to my website, which is kathrinebejanyan.com, and just shoot me an email.
Perfect. And do you also do sessions like online, like over like a Skype call if someone's based abroad?
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, I do, because a lot of my clients are abroad. And so I will connect with them online as well. Absolutely.
Perfect. And I'll put your website into the show notes. So
perfect.
Thank you so much, Kathrine. This was so lovely. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely want to have you back again if you're game.
Perfect. Love to come back.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That's it. That's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, follow on Spotify, or for all of the other platforms. Whichever way you show love is how you can support this show. Drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angie-s.com. Link in the show notes, or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is Too Old for This Shit Podcast, and the other one is Health Lifestylist. Again, links in the show notes. See you next week, and until then,
using health inappropriately.